Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and this fight gave me all kinds of problems. So all of this commentary, except at the very end, is going to be added after the fact. I've basically already edited the footage and sped it up by times two just to get it into one episode. So let's go over some basics. The Balor Guardian is a little bit tougher version of the Balor from 3.5 edition. My party is average level 9 to 10. The Balor in 3.5 is made for parties of close to level 20 or so. The Balor does have damage resistance except for against iron and good. If you have any good enchanted items, it's very, very easy to do. Unfortunately, I scoured the entire game, and due to choices earlier in the entire playthrough, I didn't have any good holy weapons on me. The radiant weapons that I picked up are not great. They don't really do anything to them. I guess they hit more often, which I could have used, I guess, but they didn't hit for as much, and they didn't puncture his DR. I looked back through all of the shopkeepers to see if I could find anything that I sold, and I didn't. I looked at walkthroughs and found, yes, there's weapons that make this fight a little bit easier. They're actually kind of broken in the base game, although I think Temple Plus kind of fixes it. Unfortunately, I didn't make those choices, the appropriate choices to get them. So I had to rely on summons. Summons did well, and I suffered the same problem that I had earlier, in that this Balor can summon one of 4 different demon types. He can summon another Balor. He can summon a Hezrau. He can summon 2 to 3 Hezrau, I believe. And then there's the Glabrazu he can summon. Now, if he summons another Balor or a Glabrazu, it's game over there, because those are powerful enough that I can only fight one at a time. And of course, if I'm having problems with one Balor, 2 is just going to wipe the floor with me. The problem with the, I believe that they're the Hezrau, those are the ones that emit that stench, is that individually they're okay, but he tends to summon them in my party, and they intend to immediately use their stench ability, which immediately takes out my ability to use any of my party that has not advanced on the Balor already. So that's also a wipe, because it effectively just takes half my party out. The only option I have at the very beginning is to keep reloading until he summons the Quasits. Now, the Quasits also gang up on somebody, and in this case they ganged up on my wizard, and I'll talk more about it in a little bit, because you may have noticed my party changed. But the poison damage is enough from their one round of attacks, because they get to attack immediately when they appear, enough to basically take him out of the fight as well, unless he gets incredibly lucky. However, that's just one person, and my cleric can immediately dump an Order's Wrath on the Quasits and take them all down, pretty much. So that just leaves my main party. Now, before the fight, I pre-buffed them with the Circle of Protections. I pre-buffed them with Good Hope, or whatever it is. And what that does is give a morale bonus to saves. I pre-buffed them with Bless, which gives another +1 to saves versus fear, and I buffed them with protection or with remove fear, which gives it's supposed to remove all signs of fear. It's supposed to remove all fear of effects when it is cast, and then give a +4 to fear effects. I have discovered that the Balor fear that he uses, because what he does is he summons on the first round and then uses an AE fear that hits everybody, even if they're really far away, on the second round. I've discovered that the fear that he puts on them is not removed by the version of remove fear that I have in this game, which is really annoying. It does, however, give the +2 bonus against it, so it helps save. I also buffed Scorn and one other person, I believe, with Owl's Wisdom, which gives you like +4 Wisdom, which gives you another +2 to will saves. So, in effect, the start of this fight, the first 2 rounds of this fight, the Ifriti are almost an afterthought. They almost don't even matter. The Ifriti are almost an afterthought. But the first 2 rounds, the Balor does a summon, which puts me entirely at the RNG's mercy on the summon, and then a fear effect. And that is kind of RNG based as well, because I only have 2 people that can really hit this thing hard enough to puncture its DR reliably when they hit, which is Scorn and Elmo. He's got such a high spell resistance that most of my casters are not going to get their spells through. And he's got such high DR that my Paladin actually only gets through his DR on a crit. Everybody else pretty much only hits on like a 19 or 20, or maybe even just a 20, because his AC is also very good. So, yeah. My tactic was to keep reloading through the initial 2 rounds until I got lucky and had at least Scorn, survive, and get Quasits up. After that, I went ahead and started summoning creatures to put on him. As you can see right here, I've got a bunch of bearded devils on him. Now, interesting point. This Balor Guardian has, I believe, just around 300. He might have just shy of 300 hit points. And I actually had a very good run early on wherein I had everybody survive. And I got 290 hit points of damage on the Balor Guardian. At which point, the game crashed. At that point, I had already been trying this for 2 hours. So once the game crashed, it also corrupted my footage. So I'm using some techniques in this particular fight, which I will get to probably towards the end, that may be considered cheating. In fact, are considered cheating. And I completely call them cheating. Basically save scumming. I didn't go full console, but I use save scumming during the fight itself. So you will see some reloads, and you'll see some rounds played a couple times, especially towards the end. Oh, so I mentioned I'd talk about the party composition. I noticed that Wanalon was not doing much of anything. It was basically a third wheel, and Zaxxas was pretty much the same way. So what I did was I dumped them, and I decided to switch them out. If you recall, in Hamlet, there's 2 very experienced adventurers called Bernie and Rufus. They are in charge of the town, they live in the tower. You can actually get them to join your party for an exorbitant cost in treasure. I thought they would be significantly higher level than me. I was wrong. Bernie and Rufus are only like level 8. So I have essentially traded down. I thought Bernie would at least be a better fighter than he is, and apparently he is not. So he spent most of the round. I replaced Wanalon with him, and Wanalon wasn't really doing anything anyway, so when I replaced him with Bernie, it wasn't that big a deal. What I did before entering this is you might notice that there is a troll, or at least there was a troll fighting on my side, and that's because I went ahead and charmed a troll during a random encounter on the way in with Charm Monster, because Charm Monster lasts an hour per character level, and I really, oddly enough, should have been doing more. What I shouldn't have done was charm a troll. What I should have done was charm a hill giant or an Etten. Unfortunately, I didn't think that far ahead. So what you're seeing here is him being pinned in place. And actually what you're seeing here is probably me going AFK for a little bit, trying to figure out what to do. Me pinning this guy in place. At this point in the recording, I had actually already recorded... at this point, because between the last good run and this run, I had already been recording for, I believe that was my 5th hour. So at this point I was on hour 5, and this fight took me an hour not sped up. So yeah, I was not in a good mood. I was not doing in-game narration, because at that point I just wasn't going to do it. So what I basically did was relied on summons. I relied on mostly bearded devils, because an interesting factor of bearded devils is that they're pretty much immune to a lot of his stuff, except for the death spell. And because of I didn't realize this was in the game, but apparently the Balor casts a few spells while he's on you. And let me just go over that real quick. He casts Finger of Death pretty reliably. so you have to be able to either bounce it off spell resistance or survive the save. He also casts Dispel Magic a fair amount of times. For some reason, if he dispels a summon, it doesn't actually dispel the summon. It actually takes it off of your control and makes it an enemy. Which is really, really an issue, because if you're summoning things to stop him and he keeps dispelling the summons, he's actually dispelling the charm effect that they put on him so you can control the summons. So you end up with a bunch of uncontrolled summons. So an interesting part about the Bearded Devil thing is that even though he dispelled him a few times, I noticed they kept attacking him preferentially, and I think that's because he's a demon and they're devils. I don't know if that's in the actual code or not, but I know when I tried the same thing with elementals, they tended to turn on me or each other. So the fact that you can summon Bearded Devils on this guy is great. From what I'm reading, I believe that something in the Temple Plus or Circle of 8 mod pack beefed this guy up a little bit to a proper status, and they kind of rely on the idea that you're going to uncap your characters. I don't think I actually uncapped my characters. I think I left them capped at like level 10 or whatever, which is whatever it is. I was severely underleveled for this. At the point I entered the combat, I honestly thought I would just push through it. Honestly, I should have gone back and just ground out some random encounters until I was of a sufficient level to deal with this thing. But I also think that I had the lower level cap on, so that may or may not be a deal. I can't tell you the number of migraines I got going after this fight, because with multiple, as you can see, the flashing from the auras from the circles of protection. Imagine staring at that for 5+ hours. I was getting a severe migraine towards the end of it, so that's neither here nor there. You'll note that I'm continuing onward. I kept pretty much tried to keep everybody hasted. I got as many summons as I could. I got a bunch of spiritual weapons, and I was doing pretty good. But I noticed after the initial buffs started wearing off, I could probably only hit this guy on like a natural 20 or a 19, and that means, unfortunately, those aren't automatic crits in 3.5. However, they are. Then the 20 at least is an automatic hit. So at this point, I was basically waiting for my Bearded Devils and my 2 polearm wielders to manage to eke out natural 20s in order to hit the guy. So that's where that was. At a certain point in there, I started getting issues with him starting to one-round people, but that's neither here nor there. This fight actually lasted so long that his initial fear actually wore off, and my people started able to rejoin the fight. Unfortunately, that meant that they started triggering attacks of opportunity and allowing him to go through my people that much faster, so that was a problem. At a certain point, because I am playing a Necromancer on my Wizard, and he didn't have a lot of ability to use low-level spells that would actually hit this guy. At a certain point, I just started bouncing debuffs off of him in an attempt to get through his spell resistance. I bounced a lot of slow spells off him, but I think I actually landed 1 Ray of Enfeeblement on him, which was amazing, because that means that I not only got through his spell resistance with a level check, but I also rolled a natural 20 on the attack roll, because it requires a ranged touch attack. And I think that even his touch AC is high enough that I couldn't have hit him with anything less than a 20. So yeah, it was an interesting fight. I'm actually recording this commentary the day after. I cannot, if I had recording it during, there was no way I could do it at that point, because I was just seriously out of it. If you do this in your own game, I would highly recommend saving at least 1 cold iron weapon to use. Unfortunately, my one craft magic arms and armor person doesn't have the ability to make this guy or to make a good aligned weapon. So you're basically relying on what the game has. And I believe some sort of modification in the mod packs I'm using turns some already in the game holy weapons into brilliant weapons, which is not what they're supposed to be. So yeah, there is that. Maybe brilliant weapons hit him better. I don't know. I think his touch AC is pretty high as well. So there is that. And at a certain point, you'll note some of my protections wearing off because he'll start one-rounding people, and that does become an issue. Now, I will note that there is one weapon that, when used by a chaotic good person that's in the game, will just completely demolish this guy. Unfortunately, apparently it is broken in the main game, so it has a tendency to crash the game, so I didn't get to use it. However, it is given as a reward for a quest. It's called Scather, or whatever. I don't know if it's in the main game or just in the mod pack. But it is given to you as a quest that lets you free a prince and a princess. And I believe those are the vampiric ones, maybe? I'm not entirely certain, but I think that's the one that gave me Fragarak or whatever. That may be involved with that same thing. I'm not 100% on that. So that is an option for those of you who want to do this without relying on save scumming. I had to rely on save scumming. I make no apologies for it. It was driving me up the wall. And then I will say this. I know, because I've finished all the elemental nodes. I don't know what else there is, but I think there's only... because I've looked through the module in the past. I can't remember exactly, but I think there's only one level after this. So I am not looking forward to the next level, because I believe you actually have to fight, or you have the opportunity to fight Zuktmoy. Zuktmoy is a demon lord. She will probably be much like fighting the Baylor in terms of what's required. I don't know. I don't 100% know. So we'll have to see how that goes. I may have to go in there and figure out an entirely new set of weapons to deal with that, because I cannot take another fight like that. This fight took it out of me. This fight almost got me to go ahead and just quit the game entirely at this point. But no, I got it through. I got it through. And I believe at this point you'll see me jumping around, because I think this is the point at which I started having to quick load stuff. And basically once... No, this is still a little bit to go, but basically once he hits a certain point, he starts just one-rounding and cleaving through people like this. Do you see that? That what he just did? That was one of a great cleave. And he just like carves through a bunch of people. And the problem is, this guy actually does not kill my troll. He puts my troll down, and then my troll regenerates. And that's why I don't want to pick a troll. I should have picked like an Ettin or a Hill Giant. Because that troll regenerates, and he stands up, and he triggers another attack of opportunity, and he gets put down again, which lets this guy cleave in all my people again, which is just terrible. So lesson learned, don't bring a troll against this guy. He can't hit the guy. I mean, he was excellent against the Ifrit, but if you got a troll in melee with this guy, every time he stands up, he's gonna this Baylor is gonna put another person down. That was a terrible decision on my part. Don't use charmed trolls, but you could use a charmed Ettin. Charmed Ettins and charmed Hill Giants would actually have a decent chance of hitting this guy, and they hit hard enough they can probably punch through his damage reduction. They don't have enough hit points to really make it worthwhile. Like healing them maybe, but at least you'll get some damage on them. The other thing I'd like to note is just an observation. This guy is a huge Baylor. They're usually large or whatever, so this guy's got an additional 5 foot of reach that lets him hit basically everybody in the group that's around him. And you cannot get very close at all without triggering an attack of opportunity or something. So, yeah, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to comment on this, but it's not much longer. It's only another 10 minutes long. And there we go. We start our first reloads. You'll see me reload a few times because I'm trying to basically make sure that I get my people to survive. Because watch what he's doing with my paladin. So every time he puts my paladin, I'm trying to get my paladin to survive at least one more round. because I'm so close. At this point, this guy's had like about 270 hit points of damage put on him. That means I knew at this point, because I'd already pretty much done a little bit more. I knew at this point I was only 20 away from the damage that I thought would take him down. I knew I was only about 10 to 15 points of damage away from the amount of damage I'd done before the entire thing crashed. But at this point, I was very, very frustrated because I'd been doing this for hours and hours. So I quick loaded until such time as he got somebody to stay up. And at this point, you'll see me quick load a lot just to get people. I'm just outright save scumming at this point. I am doing a little bit of damage, seeing if anybody survives around, and then quick saving the game, and then just quick loading until the next round where somebody goes ahead and stands back up. I think at one point I did decide to just go ahead and start summoning a bunch of elementals, because even though they may go ahead and turn on each other, getting them boxed in with large elementals was about my only chance to save this. You'll notice almost everybody's just chain missing at this point, because all my accuracy buffs are gone. I've got no others that can go ahead and be used. I'm busting out my scrolls and my potions, which I haven't used all game so far. Unfortunately, a lot of those scrolls and potions are just real low level stuff, so I couldn't even do that at that point. This was an act of desperation. I did not have the weapons for this. I did not have the gear for this. I did not have the levels for this. But I guess that's what a Baylor fight is. You know, you're facing something really big. By the time I noticed by the time I usually face these guys in tabletop, I'm usually of ample level to just steamroller them. Interesting factoid, I threw one of these against a level 10 5th edition party, a Baylor against a level 10 5th edition party, and they just steamrollered the dude because of the way stuff works in 5th edition. They are much tougher opponents in 3rd in 3.x systems, and in 2nd edition systems for that matter. Although, I believe that in 1st edition, even though they are rough creatures, the scaling in 1st edition means that if you're like level 8 to 9, you're already almost halfway through the progression, or you're actually more than halfway through the expected progression. Because even though the levels went up to level 20 in 1st edition, a lot of demi-humans were capped much lower, and it assumed that you were going to retire or run something at that point. So if you were fighting one of these guys in 1st edition at level 8 and 9 is rough. Don't get me wrong, it's rough, but it's more doable than it is at 3.x, which is, kind of expected, I guess. So at this point, yeah, you can tell I am just outright scraping the bottom of the barrel on my stuff. I'm using up potions. I'm trying things out. I was trying potions of heroism to see if that would help people out. It didn't. I used all of my charges of remove fear. None of that worked. It is just a rough fight. I think the only reason I did better than this because I did worse this time than I did in the one where I got him down to like 280 to 290, or I did 280 to 290 without, and then lost it to a crash. I think the only reason I got that is because I had a bunch of my summons actually crit. Also, when he summoned the Quasits on my wizard, Rufus or Barney? I forget which one's the wizard. When they summoned the Quasits on them, he actually didn't take enough poison damage to paralyze him, so he actually got to use some of his spells. Not that he had much spells, but he had haste, and I believe he had some magic missiles to help burn down the free tea, and he had, I think he had one more summon. And then my summons just got incredibly lucky with crits. So that's the difference on that one. At this point, I let my paladin go down because why not? At this point, he was low. He's got 271 or something. At this point, I knew I was only like 1 or 2 hits away from killing him. Because he was. I can't even read that right now. But he was real low on hit points. He was near death, and he hung on to near death for a long time. Yeah, so it was just rough. Yeah, and at this point, I went ahead and reloaded a couple rounds back, so where Zini was still up, so I could try to reposition people. I thought I could just brute force it at that point, but it didn't really go over well. So I went ahead and just tried again. You'll notice there's a ton of elementals at this point, and that was just an active decision on my part. Now I will say, and I'm not going to show it in this one, but after this, I did have a couple characters level up. I will wait till the next episode to actually level them up. But I actually had the troll. After resting, the troll stood back up again and came and started attacking me in my sleep. So I actually had to wait after this and intentionally rest in such a way where I could take the troll on and remove him from the state of being alive, because I did not want to kill a Baelor Guardian and then get owned by a troll that I had charmed. So yeah, at this point, I even had my cleric in there meleeing, and she hit once or twice. It wasn't for a lot, but it was for enough to punch through his DR. And the only problem is that even though she had one of the best ACs in my party, she was still getting hit. She was still getting one-rounded. At this point, I decided to try another Earth Elemental just to see if it would happen. Yeah, this was terrible at this point. I think you're going to see this pretty soon. He's going to go down, I believe. But I was tearing my hair out. Look at how hard he hits. He hits like a freaking truck. Yeah, and then she goes down. Which leaves what?
Very well.
Me reloading. Interestingly enough, Scorn did great during all of this. Scorn was like my primary damage dealer, and she's still a level behind most people. So there is that. But, yeah, at this point, I was just scrounging through stuff and to try to find anything that could damage him. I think at one point, I even tried the Rope of Entanglement on him. I was like, I know this is going to bounce off of his spell resistance, but at a certain point, you just got to try what you got. And that was getting close to terrible. It wasn't so much me trying to avoid him getting lucky and killing me. It was more me trying to get lucky and survive a attack. Although I will say this. The heal spell, when it does go off, is absolutely outstanding in this game. Here's when I actually get to use it. And I basically reset Elmo for a round. Only one round, because that one round is enough for him to go ahead and take Elmo down. And, yeah, it's just people spamming misses left and right. Every single time, when he's near death, every single time I tagged him and didn't quite take him down was just like a kick in the guts, because I had been playing the game for hours. My intention was to go ahead and record 3 quick episodes of this and then go back to Neverwinter Nights and then just edit it all night. This fight just ruined that entire plan. I did not get anything but this game recorded that night, and I did not get to edit it. So take that as you will. This game, this particular episode right here, was about akin to doing a full day's worth of work. Just dealing with this dude. I would not recommend fighting this thing at this level to anybody. And again, I don't know how I'm going to take on Zuckmoy. I may have to find some way out of it. I may fight her once just to have her kill me, but we'll have to see. I don't know if there's any good ways to get holy iron weapons in the game. I exhausted pretty much every route I thought I could take. Now, I do seem to remember one, but I thought I sold it. And when I went to look at the vendors, I couldn't find it. All I need, really, is one. One of them, realistically. Because I can slap that on Scorn, roid her up, and then she can hit like a truck with it on any demon. Let's see what we got here. I think at this point I'm getting close. At this point, like the last 5 minutes that you've been watching this, I think I've only hit this thing once. And this is where I started. I got worried there when I reloaded the game there and it jumped to that guy. Because for a moment there I thought I'd reloaded a much earlier save. I was like, oh no! But no, it was just catching that dude on the midst of his turn while he was paralyzed. I noticed sometimes when I was quick loading, it wouldn't put me exactly where I saved. It was weird. It was like I would quick load and it would put me in combat, but it would put me like with actions used when they weren't used. It was weird. At this point, I think the game was just bugging out. I was just praying that it wouldn't crash at this point, because when that thing, I tell you what, when that thing crashed, I screamed, and I would have it on. I like legitimately just shrieked when that thing crashed after the first time I got him down this low, and I would have put it in here, but unfortunately, when the game crashed, it also crashed OBS and corrupted my recording, so I couldn't even if I wanted to. Otherwise, you would have found a more coherent explanation of the strategy that I was going to use at the very beginning, because I ended up using that one all the way through, and it worked, as you can tell down here. Now, I only got a couple more minutes here, and then I can pick up with the old me. And I believe you might find the tone of my voice will say pretty much everything about what you need to know about this fight. But for now, I'm gonna sign off here. Don't go immediately. This has been the RPG Crawler. This has been my Temple of Elemental Evil Let's Play. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for RPG content. And try to forgive the irritation in the voice that you are about to hear.
Yes. Very well.
Finally! Oh my god, I hope this I just hope that this goes okay. Okay, Alright, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to back up. I'm going to go grab the magic gem. And I'm going to save the game. And I'm going to quickly... Actually, you know what? I'm not going to explain it. I'm just going to call it here. Thank you for watching. I don't know how much of this I'm going to edit out. Take care and goodbye.